Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric Ames. I'm a musician, producer, and music production teacher. Today we're going to be answering the question, what kind of headphones should you be using in your home studio? And the answer is obvious, people. Apple AirPods are the only headphones you'll ever need. Thanks for checking out the video. I'll see you next time. Okay, I'm obviously kidding, but I do love my AirPods because they're great for when you're on the move, when you're running around, and they're great for checking your mixes because they're the most popular consumer headphone out there right now. Everybody has them. That's what people listen to music on. So I suggest you check your mix on them before you send it out into the world. Okay, but for real, when it comes to studio headphones, there are a ton of choices, brands, price points, a lot of information out there. So if you're just starting out in your home studio or you just need an extra pair of headphones, how are you supposed to choose? So let's break it all down and see what we come up with. So what do you even need headphones in your studio for? The two main things are recording and mixing. When you're tracking something using a microphone, you need to wear headphones so you can hear the playback track, the click track, and so you can monitor what you're recording in your headphones. There are certain kind of headphones that excel in this role and other kinds of headphones that aren't the best. Then there are headphones that are specifically made for mixing and producing music, and they're a totally different thing. We'll get into both. But first, let's ask another question. Should you be even mixing in headphones? This question comes up a ton, and to put it simply, the answer is yes, you should be, but with a few caveats. Mixing and producing in headphones is great, but they're best used in conjunction with a set of studio monitors or a few pairs of studio monitors if you have that available to you. The reason it's so good to have a pair of studio monitors to pair with your headphones is because the sound you get from both of them is just totally different. And I don't just mean the sound physically coming out sounds different, but it's a much different environment. When you listen through speakers, you get the whole ambiance of the room around you and there's a bunch of airflow. And when you're using headphones to mix, they're right on your head and it's an entirely different experience and field of sound. And by having both available to you, you can switch back and forth and make sure your mix sounds good enough in both places. But a lot of people who make music at home don't have the resources to have a pair of studio monitors, so headphones make a lot more sense because they're multifunctional and they're cheaper relative to studio monitors, as in a $99 pair of headphones is going to be higher quality than a $99 set of studio monitors. So there are a few different types of studio headphones. The first one we're going to talk about are closed back headphones. Closed back headphones such as these are going to be your go-to for tracking or recording. That's because these headphones not only form a tight seal around your ear, but they're also closed off in the background, right? They're sealed in the back, which reduces the amount of air and sound that can travel out of them, which reduces mic bleed. Mic bleed is when the playback track or the click or any sound coming out of your headphones gets picked up by your microphone, which is bad news. This style of headphone also blocks out the ambient sound around you because it's fitted over your ears, which helps you focus on the playback and the click, and especially if you're recording something super loud like drums, it kind of blocks out that live sound and just shows you in your ears what you're recording. Most closed back headphones are made for tracking, but some come in handy for mixing as well. These headphones will have a flatter frequency response, as in the lows, the mids, and the highs aren't going to be boosted or cut all that much, and the flat response really allows you to hear a clear, objective version of your mix, before it's altered by your equipment. An example pair of headphones that do not have a flat frequency response would be something like Beats by Dre, which have a significant boost in the low end. Like I mentioned, most closed-back headphones are made for recording, so something like these Sennheisers I have, they have a lot of mids and a lot of low end, and if you try to mix on them, you're just not going to get a mix that's going to sound good everywhere because they're kind of messing up what your mix sounds like when you're hearing it through these. So if you're just using something like this to record, it works perfectly fine because all you got to do is hear yourself and hear what you're recording along to. Luckily, they do make headphones that are closed back and have a relatively flat response, meaning if they're the only pair of headphones you have in your studio, you can use them for both tasks. So if you're someone who could only afford one pair of headphones right now, I would say buy something like that so you can use them in both places and you don't have to worry about buying a bunch of different gear and spending a ton of money right now. When I first got into seriously recording music when I was like 16, I saved up money from doing chores and I bought this pair of Shure SRH 440s. They were $99 then in 2010, and they're still $99. They still sound amazing. The rubber band is kind of shredding, but what do you expect after 11 years? So I'll always recommend these for someone starting out who can only go for one pair of headphones to do both things right now. When it comes to headphones just for tracking, there are even more great options. Like I said before, I have these Sennheisers. They're the HD 280 Pros, and I have these Audio-Technicas. They're ATH M50s. Both of these provide a good seal, block out all that outside noise, and they sound relatively good. But feel free to do your own research on headphones. There are a ton of options, a lot of technical info out there for you to learn. Okay, so open back headphones. These are the opposite of closed back headphones, as you could probably assume. These fit a little less snug around your ears. Usually the pads are bigger and they kind of float over your ears instead of cupping like directly around them. And they have these perforated backs which let air and sound travel freely back and forth. As you could probably assume by what I just said, because so much air and sound travel through the headphones, it makes it difficult to track because of the mic bleed problem. But this is why they're great for mixing and producing. Because of the airflow you get, they're much more comfortable to wear for a long period of time. Your head and your ears don't get as hot and sweaty, and you can kind of just chill with them on for a while. Having the open back also makes whatever you're listening to just sounds more natural, because humans, we're not used to hearing sounds come from this isolated thing right, covering our ears. We're used to hearing sounds through the open air. So the open back headphones kind of mimic that experience a little bit. And this can help you while you're mixing because it kind of emulates a realistic listening environment. If you're somebody who never records anything with a microphone, if you just mix, if you just produce, or you make everything electronic using software sounds, you can theoretically get away with having a pair of open back headphones as your only headphones because why not, right? But either way, if you can swing it, you should have a pair of these to go along with your closed back. So when you're sitting at your desk for hours and hours working on a song, you hear your mix better and your ears and your head don't hurt as much. Since this style of headphone is specifically made for mixing and producing music, you won't have as much of a problem trying to find a pair with a flat frequency response. It just kind of depends. None of them are truly flat. Some have little boosts and cuts throughout the frequency chart, and it's kind of, you just got to pick what you think you're going to like the most. It's usually pretty easy to find the frequency response chart for a pair of headphones. You can just Google it, and one of the links, usually the manufacturer's website, will have it listed. My pair of open back headphones, the one I've been holding and showing you this whole time, are AKG K702s. I actually made a gear review video about them last year when I got them, which felt super random because I'd never done that before, but they're super great. They're extremely comfortable. Sometimes I just put them on my head if I'm sitting here and not even listening to anything, because they just kind of feel nice, and they have a nice crisp, clear, flat response, and things just sound beautiful in these. Now let's talk about ohms. An ohm is a unit that measures electrical resistance. So in this case, when we're talking about headphones, we're going to be using the word impedance. Every pair of headphones has a number of ohms assigned to it that denote its impedance. Usually you can find this information on any website where you go to buy the headphones, Amazon, Sweetwater, wherever. It'll be listed because it's important. And it is marked with this symbol that I'll put on the screen right here. It boils down to this. This number describes how much power your headphones need to run at full capacity. And by full capacity, I mean you're hearing the highest quality sound from your headphones. What this means for you is that you need to make sure whatever headphones you want to buy are going to be powered enough by your current audio setup. The higher the impedance or number of ohms, the quieter the headphones will sound on standard audio equipment, that is audio equipment without an extra headphone amplifier. So if you haven't purchased any equipment to give extra power to headphones, like a headphone amplifier, you need to buy headphones that have a lower impedance. The K702s I have an impedance of 62 ohms, which seems to be kind of the top and the cap of what you can get away with without having an amplifier. All I need to do if I switch from another pair of my headphones to these is turn my audio interface output up a few notches. It's really not that big of a deal. For reference, the Audio-Technica M50s I have an impedance of 38 ohms, which means compared to the K702s, they're much, much louder. The SRH 440s I have an impedance of 44 ohms, and they sound no different volume-wise than the M50s. Anywhere in the 32 to 64 ohm range should be totally fine without an amplifier. Before I bought the K702s, I had purchased a pair of Beyerdynamic DT880s because I had not done enough research about impedance and ohms, and when they got delivered to my house, I plugged them in and said, Why is everything so quiet? Something must be broken. The DT880s have an impedance of 250 ohms, so you can imagine my disappointment and confusion when I plugged them in and said, why can't I hear anything, and had to crank it and crank it and crank it. So I returned them, did a whole bunch of research, and then I bought the K702s, which, like I said, work totally fine with my setup. In summary, don't be like me. To wrap this video up, let's talk about how much you should be spending on studio headphones. This is obviously going to depend on your financial situation. I cannot tell you how to live your life, but what I can tell you is that there are good options at every price point, low to high. You don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on studio headphones. If you can swing it, that's totally fine, and DM me, I'll give you my address, and you can send me an extra pair because there are some I want to get my hands on. Is that cool? But if you can afford multiple pairs of headphones, I would get a pair of open back headphones for mixing and producing, and a separate pair of closed back headphones for all your recording and tracking needs. This way you kind of have every tool at your disposal and you can switch between the two for your different tasks. If you're only looking to spend money on one pair of headphones right now, I suggest something like the Shure SRH 440s because they are both closed back and have a relatively flat response, and they're a great place to start. The bottom line is that if you're just starting out and you don't have a ton of money to burn on this kind of thing, do not stress about it. It'll be okay. You can find one pair of headphones to take care of everything, and it's a great starting point. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to read this information, you can check out the blog post that's in the description. You can check out my band, Cute Threat. Last month we released our first single ever, and I'm super stoked about it and proud of it, and I love it so much, and it would be amazing if you listen to it. And finally, if you want to take one-on-one lessons with me, I do them via Zoom. We can talk about music production, songwriting, structuring songs, really anything that you're struggling with in that realm. I can help you out, so you can head to my website in the description box and we can set something up. Let me know what kind of headphones you use in your home studio, and I'll see you next week with a new video.